You asked for it, and so ye shall receive. Which means today, in my ongoing series to build iconic tech from Portal 2, I'm going to build a life-size companion cube. And in this first video, I'll walk you through my design, and in the next video, I'll actually build it. But first, we need goals. Since this is an engineering challenge, I need to set clear goals and define constraints so that I know what to accomplish. And my goal isn't just to recreate something that looks like it's from the world of Portal 2, but to replicate how it might actually be made using authentic materials and techniques. But since I don't have a defense contractor's budget or a subterranean research facility yet staffed full of scientists, I have some limitations, and the first of those is size. According to Bastion of Truth and Never Wrong website, Wikipedia, the in-game model in Portal 2 is 2.25 feet square. Now, where did those stats come from? I don't know. But it's good enough for science in this case because I've realized that's a very huggable dimension. And I've decided that's a very important goal because I need to hug it. I want to hug it. I need a hug. So I'm going to make it that scale. But if you have qualms with my research methods, then you can leave a detailed thesis in the comments below explaining the true dimensions of the companion cube, but I'm going to keep my design as is. Despite being 99% box, the companion cube has a lot of unique details, corner bumpers, edges, logos, glowy bits, that I have to reproduce accurately. And the cube should look good from every angle. I'm not going to cheat and allow myself to make one ugly side of the cube where I can plug things in or make it easy to take apart. So that will be something I'll need to consider when I'm designing for assembly. The weighted cubes suffer a lot of abuse throughout Aperture, from being dropped from vital apparatus vents, tossed via aerial faith plates, shoved through portals, to being carelessly handled and hopped on by many a girthy test subject. So how would it withstand all of that? My cube needs to be tough, so I'm going to use tough materials. It's easier to make one of something, but if I'm ever going to have warehouses full of cubes, then I need to figure out a way to design them such that they can be fabricated, assembled, and maintained easily. Which means that if I'm spending 8 hours assembling them by hand, I'm doing it wrong. Last but not least, I've set a budget of $500 for this build. Now $500 is a lot of money, but it adds up quickly because I've challenged myself to build this in a way that uses techniques and materials that I never have before. Because I know that I could just build this out of MDF for like $100, but that wouldn't be challenging for me, and it wouldn't be entertaining for you. Don't you kind of want to see me suffer? Just a little bit, not too much. Don't enjoy my suffering, that's weird. Don't actually, And budgets like this wouldn't be possible without sponsors. So thankfully, this video is brought to you by Blinkist. It's important for me to constantly grow and widen my knowledge. And I like to do that with books and podcasts. But if you're like me, you probably don't have a lot of spare time. I mean, who does? And that's where Blinkist comes in. Because not only do they have over 5,000 titles across 27 categories of nonfiction books, but they've condensed those books into short audio and text explainers called Blinks. Now, more specifically, Blinks refer to the summarized versions of books. And if you want to listen to the summarized version of a podcast, that's called a shortcast. Now, this might sound like a study tool from when you were a kid, but this isn't about preparing for a test or writing an essay. It's about discovering powerful ideas about the world in 15 minutes. And for me, the powerful idea that I needed to get is a little bit more productivity. So it's no surprise that I enjoyed the Blink
Get It Done,
which really helped me change my attitude about how I approach projects, especially once I've gotten that initial joy, or gotten through that initial joy of starting a project, and then I'm in a slump, and I procrastinate, and I don't get things done. And changing my mindset, hopefully, will change how I get things done and help me be more productive. So if you want to change your attitude and your thought process about the world or anything that you might be interested in, go ahead and try out Blinkist. Now, my audience has a special offer from Blinkist, so sign up using my link in the description or pinned at the top comment, and you will get a 7-day free trial and 25% off your premium subscription. Thanks again to Blinkist for sponsoring this video. All right, on to the design. I've broken up the cube into a few key components: the chassis, corners, edge guards, faceplates, logos, illuminated panels, and rings. I'm not set up for welding yet, so as much as I would love to make the entire cube out of solid steel, that will have to wait. So for the frame of the companion cube, I'm making a skeleton out of aluminum angle. I purchased 25 feet for $65 at my local metal shop and had them cut it down to 2-foot lengths. I'll need 12 lengths of 18 inches, which means I'll still need to cut them down to size. These will join via 4 screws to 3D printed corner blocks, which aren't going to be too strong, but they don't need to be, because they're going to be reinforced by the aluminum faceplates later on. The corner blocks also have a large through hole that will allow one long 3-inch bolt to fasten to large corner pieces right at their center. That might not be enough to hold them in place, but I've planned for that, so let's talk about the corners. There are 8 corner pieces on each cube, and while they might seem simple at first, this is actually probably the most difficult aspect of the design. They don't have any obvious way to attach to the body, and they will need to bear the weight of the whole cube. And they have a volume of about 3 liters, which is a lot of material, so I hollowed out most of the design. If I had all the money, I would have them injection molded out of a tough material like ABS. But that's thousands of dollars that I don't have. More plausibly, I'd like to mold and cast them myself out of epoxy or a urethane rubber. But that would blow out the budget, as I'd need to spend a couple hundred on just the silicone for one mold and the same for the resin, assuming I get perfect casts on every try too. So plan C is to 3D print the corners out of PLA. Now I know what you're saying, PLA is garbage. Why not directly print them out of ABS or PETG or nylon? Well, for starters, I already have a ton of PLA on hand, and printing with higher temperature filaments is more prone to failure and added cost. So I'm going to use the PLA I've got on hand, and no matter what material I was going to use, I'm not going to rely on the 3D printed strength alone. I'm going to reinforce them with fiberglass. This will give me tons of added strength for little extra cost. And this is something I've done before. I used fiberglass to reinforce the head pieces for GLaDOS and the outer shells for Wheatley, so I know it's very reliable. I'll be using about half a kilogram of PLA per corner, plus the fiberglass and epoxy I've already got in hand. That means I'll be able to have all 8 corners for less than $100, which I think is pretty practical, even if it's not mass manufacturable. Also, we'll see if my initial plan to have them secured by one central bolt will pan out, but just in case, I also modeled in 3 extra holes for self-tapping screws. There are 12 edge guard pieces, but since the edges are small enough, I can just 3D print them directly. They'll be epoxy coated, but since they don't have to bear any load, they don't need to be reinforced. These can be screwed into from within the chassis. There are 4 screws per guard, but that's just so that the model is symmetrical. I'll only need a couple screws to hold each edge in place, but this way I don't need to orient them in any particular way during assembly. There are 6 major faces that I need to make, so I've decided to make them out of aluminum sheet. It's strong, lightweight, and easy to machine. Now I do have a little CNC router here in the garage, but I shouldn't make them myself, and here's why. Each of these panels takes up an area of about 10 inches square, but in order to secure it in my CNC, I need some margin of material along the edges to hold it down. So it's safe to say that I would need about a square foot of material per panel. Now, when I bought the angle aluminum at my local metal shop, I found out the cost of aluminum sheet at a 1/16 of an inch would be about $240 after taxes and cut fees, which is about $5 per square foot, which isn't bad, plus I'd end up with the material for 2 full cubes. But that cuts too far into my budget and assumes that I make no mistakes, like breaking a $30 end mill, or 3. Also, I can only cut so fast, and if it took me only 30 minutes per plate, that's 12 full hours of machine time. Turns out I can have the parts laser cut for $6.60 a pop. So that is only $1.60 extra per plate to have someone else do it for me, and they just show up at my door. That sounds like a great deal to me because I value my time at more than $3.20 an hour. I need to make 12 logos. That's 6 hearts for the companion cube and 6 aperture logos if I want to have a weighted storage cube too. So I'm going to 3D model, print, and then mold and cast these. Because I don't really care about the surface finish on the back, I can make a simple 1-part mold and make as many logo inserts as I want. Now, to hold them in place, I'm going to use magnets at 4 locations where there should be screws in the original game design, but this way I can quickly swap them in and out when I need to change the cube design or get access to the interior of the cube. I need 6 translucent windows that can change color from pink to yellow to blue, depending on how the cube is configured. I've decided to make these out of 5mm thick polycarbonate sheet. It's tough and easily machined. which is important because I need to recess the logo inserts into the windows to match the exact height in the game model. I also cut a large hole out of the middle behind the logo, 1, so that I don't waste time machining a large pocket, and 2, so when the cube is nearly assembled, I can reach my hand inside to screw in the final corners and access the electronics. Also, the polycarbonate is naturally transparent, but I can just hit it with some sandpaper to diffuse it. Annoyingly, the little strips around the main window also light up. Now, I could have designed the window all as one piece, like this, which would make it easier to fabricate and assemble, but it's wasteful of materials, because this stubby cross shape makes weird offcuts. But if I split the design into a main ring and turn the strips into simple pill shapes, I can machine with way less waste, plus they act as a useful mechanical feature. See, the logos are aligned to the windows with screws, but we need to align the windows to the faceplates without any screws or glue. So I added indentations at 4 points, so the small strips can act as keys that will lock the rotation of the main window. Also, I'm hoping that if I put the light source behind the logo, that it will diffuse through the ring and into the little strips, but we'll see if that works out. Now, to hold the windows in place, I've designed the dark ring elements in 2 pieces, an external ring that matches the original game design, and an internal ring to hold them from within. These are attached via 4 screws that are part of the original design, but since those are so spread out and small, I've added extra threaded holes near the strips that will screw in from the back if needed. Now, I would love to and easily could machine these out of tough plastic or aluminum, but making ring shapes that way is really wasteful of material. And as much as I like to pretend that I'm going to design future projects out of the weird offcuts that I make, I don't really do that. So the shape is simple enough that I'm going to machine 1 of each and then mold and cast them for the final design. But what about the electronics? How am I going to make it glow? How am I going to control it? How am I going to reach? How am I going to go through puberty? When will I finally go through puberty? It's been 30 years. But what about the electronics? How am I going to power this? How am I going to make it glow? How am I going to control it? How is it going to know when it's on a button and change color, but only when it's on a button? We'll figure that out, me figure that out in the build video. So subscribe. Man, I'm out of words. Subscribe to watch that video, and I'll see you guys next time. Also, thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters, especially my war heroes. That's Adam759, Kynan McCauley, and Paranormal Encounters. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.